Hello, world. My name is Lo, and welcome to Conversation is Key, a podcast with the Keatons. On this family podcast, we bring our unique perspectives to various topics, from coronavirus to pop culture, that you can check out after this episode. So, before we get started, I would love to show gratitude to everyone who has liked, commented, and subscribed to our channel. We really appreciate it. Please keep it coming. And before we get into episode 3, I would love to introduce the Keaton family. I am Lo. I'm a teacher. Quirky fact about me, I'm not sure if I love learning or teaching more. All right, first I would like to introduce my husband, Showtime Sintez. Sintez, say what's up.
What's up? It's Showtime Sintez, and pardon the hat, but it's quarantine, and my hairdresser, she didn't like the appointment slot I had made with her earlier yesterday, and that's the reason why I got a fro, so I had to cover the fro.
Thank you, Sintez. Not only is he amazing, but he also has amazing people that he is related to, his lovely siblings. And first, I'm going to introduce Tay JD. Tay, say what's up.
Hey, everybody. What's up? Happy Saturday. What
I love about Tay, she is just very kind, very sweet. Not only is she a fellow Taurus, but she also studies psychology like myself.
Hey.
So next, I want to move into Kwani Cocaine. Kwani, what I love about Kwani, he always has made me laugh since the first time I met him. He always keeps us laughing. Kwani, say what's up to the people.
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing out there?
All right, and last but certainly not least, we have Mecca. Say what's up, Mecca.
What's up, world?
Whoa. Hey, hello.
The Black International Band of Mystery is back. You can probably the modern day Morpheus.
You're on your Morpheus tip today.
Mecca is the oldest out of the siblings, also the oldest out of the crew. One thing that me and Mecca have in common, we are both oldest siblings. So Mecca, I feel your pain having younger siblings.
Yeah.
So going into our topic for episode 3, we're actually going to talk about mental health. Thank you to Tay's friend Zeta Garcia for suggesting that topic for us. Did you guys know it was Mental Health Awareness Month?
Just found out.
I seen that.
Tony told me earlier today. Yeah. That's
so
cool.
Super cool, right on time with that. So before we get started with this conversation, I just wanted to share with everybody why we're having this conversation today. It's very important to us. We haven't talked about mental health as a family, and we want to help fight the stigma of mental health in the Black community.
Definitely. And I think we also just want to share that what you're going to hear us talk about today is really just our perspectives, our family experience. Although me and Lauren do have psychology degrees, none of us are clinicians. And so really this is just kind of our own experience, just really a conversation. We're not putting out any recommendations for what folks should do. We're really just trying to get this conversation going, just to model how families can have conversations about mental health.
Keep in mind, these are only our opinions and our own experiences, y'all.
Yes, absolutely.
I just want to say, you forgot about me. I got a degree in macology. And
we got degrees on the street.
So when we're referring to mental health, we're referring to the cognitive, behavioral, and emotional well-being. And it's all about how we feel, how we think, and how we behave. So to get us started, I really want to start off with the stigma in the Black community, especially when we're thinking about a part of mental health is owning your feelings. So I want to open it up to the family. What is your experience, thoughts, or observations you have had with mental health, especially in the Black community? Tay, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I was going to say the first thought I had actually when you talked about stigma, I think a lot of time this is my own personal opinion, but I think stigma in the Black community really comes from how deeply rooted Christianity is in the Black community. I think, when we were enslaved folks and coming out of slave, Black people really relied on God and faith to get us through. And so everything was about praying and really trusting that God would deliver us. And I think that the idea that you need something else other than God, it's so anti what the Black church, deep root church in us says. So I think that's been perpetuated for so long that Black people are like, no, that means that I don't have faith, or that means I don't have, I don't trust God to deliver me or whatever. So no, I can't get help for something else. I don't need another person. I'm just going to pray and God is going to work it out. So I feel like that's my personal belief as to why there's been such a long stem stigma in the Black community around mental health, because it's kind of, a lot of Black church folks feel like it's anti-God, or it's doubting God to feel like you need someone else to come in and solve a problem for you, and that you just need to put your faith in God and trust God to work it out. And I will say, I mean, I'm a Christian, I believe in God, but I also believe that God has given us the free will, and he has equipped people with skill sets to be able to support us through the trials and tribulations that we have. But that's my personal view of why there's so much stigma in the Black community.
I'm gonna interject you with a little fact check, Tay. You're actually right. It's a doctor that went to USC, last name White. We'll find the article later, but she actually did a study on stigma in the Black community. In the Black community, and her things is, she said 86% of Black communities identify as Christian Protestant, which is the highest of any other ethnicity to a certain specific type of religion. And the Black church is believing faith God will get you through. So it makes sense why the percentage of Black people, especially in stigma, based on her study, it goes along with what you're just saying. I'm just saying that that's a study that I remember.
That makes sense. I never heard about that, but yeah. Tori, you were saying something.
Personally, I am crazy. Confidentially, I am crazy, and I will fuck you up. But Dave Chappelle, everybody, I think it stems from a lot of it all depends on how you grew up. You know what I'm saying? And how what you was taught. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing with Black community, that we have been taught so many lies that we don't know what to believe. And sometimes we believe the lie so much that it becomes truth in our brain, and we carry that out in different ways, stuff like that. But I personally blame it on the University of Chicago and for philanthropists. But we'll say that for later.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
We'll say that for later. I'll jump in on here, especially on the stigma. So when I was just reflecting on this after we decided to do this episode, I really got to reflect on my background, because, like I said, we're ignorant about mental health and about the impact it has on people. And it all started, when I reflect, it all started as a child. I'm gonna bring up a small story, guys. And these is my reenactment of the story and the versions. These are not true factual. This is
true Charlie Murphy.
That happened about 28 years ago. So I want to say I had this Ninja Turtle, Raphael, my favorite toy in the world, like my prized possession in the world. Something happened to it. I want to blame Cocaine Quantity, but the facts are not true. But something happened to it, and I know
Daddy took it.
Daddy took it. So this is more of my story. Is with my padre. I start crying, bawling, like, you took that away from me, which is and then he told me, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. And that is the Black people's, everybody have heard that. You need to stop crying before I give you something to cry about. That
every time
meaning that I cannot express my feelings of sadness, that you have ripped away the only thing that I love in this world, my Raphael. I do not love Cocaine Quantity at this point. We don't get cool till we're 16. That's my nemesis to be 16. At this time, Raphael, anybody, Raphael, you might die. He told me pretty much I was wrong for feeling sad that he had did that. And he told me, stop crying before I give you something to cry about, meaning that I always was told that a strong man, does not supposed to express his sadness or remorse or anything that he's feeling with or dealing with, that you stay silent, because it's a sign of weakness. It's a way that you're not supposed to carry yourself at. It was taught to me at 3 years old, and that's not how you carry yourself as a man at all. You never show emotion, never show your sadness, you never talk about what's really hurting you. You keep it internal.
Yeah.
The caveat, the two other cultures that I'm biggest in has the same sort of like ideology. One is the military. The military is, you do not, never, ever show weakness of any sort, of any kind, at any time. Yeah. That is weakness. And yes, expressing yourself, or even saying that I'm tired and I need a drink of water, is fucking weakness. So extreme like weakness that no is mind over matter. Your mental weakness is because you're weak. Get stronger and you won't feel this way. that's the way the military. And then lastly, but not least, we grew up in a place where it's called gangbang culture has the same thing as well, where extreme masculinity in silence is actually the key to being the greatest of all time. And the code of game. And so that is also something that was drilled in me as a kid, that you don't show weakness, you don't express yourself, you don't show emotions. There's only one way to react to situations, with force. And all this stuff is the reason why I was so ignorant how mental health was affecting people, because I always had mental issues. I just chose to ignore it because that was the device that was told to me. Any feeling I have, you push it to the side and you push through whatever you're trying to do, no matter what. And that's what a man does. That's what they told me. No matter what you're feeling, you shrug it off and you push through. And like I said, that's how I was trained. And I think a lot of people in the Black community and a lot of these communities just have this thing that the stigma is that, yes, it's weak to even talk about mental health. And that's my perspective.
And as Black people just having to be strong. And
it's like that Martin episode when remember when he was like, y'all cried before? And the time like, I cried once. He was like, what? Like, man, he was like, yeah. He was like, oh man, he was like, you cried? He was like, yeah, man, I got his shit hurt on the bike or something. He was like, how old was you? Him and Cole, how old was you? He like, oh, I was 7. He was like, or 8. He was like, yeah, because if you was 7, man, I would have been like, you was a punk or something like that.
Exactly.
Like, that's real shit though. It's like Showtime says, saying, like, for real. In the Black community, especially, like, you know what I'm saying, us growing up, it's like you can't show no weakness. You know what I'm saying? It's like everybody dealing with, you know, different emotional things, but it's like nobody speaking out on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to be getting, you know, when we was growing up, you was getting clowned. They call it bullying now. And you was getting roasted. You feel me? You better do some jokes. Right. But it's like at the end of the day, you know what that did to certain kids. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like you can't, like he was saying, you can't really show no weakness. It's like, man, it's crazy. That shit is really, it's a problem. You feel me? It's really a problem.
We're all human. Everybody experiences emotion. It's like nobody is an iRobot. Like, we all actually have feelings and emotions, and we need to be able to deal with them. So imagine a whole culture of people being trained and conditioned not to deal with their emotions.
Yeah.
Right. And just think about how that can get worse before it gets better, because
because you cope. You know, one of the things that talking about trauma and like childhood, one of the things that people don't realize, especially about mental health, is behaviors. Like, Lauren, you introduced like mental health being like how we think, how we feel. When you like, it's about habit. If you practice a certain thing so much, it becomes how you think. So if you shutting away your emotions, eventually your brain actually rewires itself to automatically do that. Yeah. Like, our brains are such powerful tools that
is mentality. That's what makes
mental. So your brain actually says, oh, this is how we should respond. If you respond a certain way 10 times, your brain's like, cool, locked in. That's how I respond. And then you don't even have any other option, because you've just taught yourself, all I do is I feel a feeling, I stuff it. Like, and that just becomes how your brain learns to categorize emotions.
Keep suppressing it.
Yep, and you just keep doing it.
Yeah. And some people really got chemical imbalances, you know what I'm saying, that they don't even, you know, never talked about, never had no resources to go, an outlet to go talk to somebody, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you just suppressing all this that you feel inside, and it's like, I can't talk about it because shit, I go down the street, talk to the homies, they're gonna be like, what the fuck you talking about? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, man, some people keep shit bottled up so much. It's like that shit can trigger, you know, certain, and this is only, you know, like we said before, this is not nothing that, you know, prove or anything from us, but this is real shit though. Like, man, that's how I feel. Like, people suppress so much shit, and that's why a lot of people go crazy, you know?
You gotta think about it though. A computer is built based off of what? Your brain. So you was actually programming your brain, which runs your whole body, to be that way. So you got to think about the deeper picture, like, why is we continually to be in these situations or so-called classification of mental illness, and we need to get to the bigger picture.
And well, it's funny that you say that, Mecca, because it makes me think of, like, with our parents, like, what if they don't know how to deal with their own mental health? So how can they teach you to deal with situations. For example, like my mom, this story, she worked at a bank. She was a district manager. She went to branches throughout the whole week. So Monday she went to, I forgot if it was Albany or Concord here in the Bay. She got robbed. She ended up pretty much at gunpoint. So she went to work to like about 2-3 days later on Thursday to a different branch in a different city and got robbed again, gunpoint, shotgun to her chest, give me all your money, when she's like, you could take it. And just her remembering her dealing with that situation, like trying to go to therapy and no one being there to support her, and knowing like, well, she's in a room dark all day, 24 hours, and people not being there to support her. Me as a kid, I don't really know what's going on. I just know you got robbed, but I don't know how to help you. So just wanted to share that little story about.
Yeah, I think that's a big piece of like we said, you know, there's always this battle of nature versus nurture. And both of them are very powerful tools and teachers.
I would say 50-50.
I say 50-50 too personally, but when you think about if your nurture, which is your environment, if your parent does not know how to cope with their own feelings, they don't know how to communicate, they can't then teach you how to cope with your own feelings and communicate. And then you cannot teach your children how to cope unless you have like some sort of reckoning, and then you actually like work to break what we call generational curses. You have to actually have an awareness first, and then you actually have to work really hard to break not only your biology, but your environment that raised you. And that shit is really difficult to fight against what's happening in you biologically because of your, you know, genetics, what's been passed down to you, but then how you've been raised and what you've normalized to go to push against that and say, you know, well, my parents never, I tell people all the time, I don't remember my parents having any conversations with us when we were kids about anything. Like, not about stranger fucking danger, not about going to the potty, like not about nothing. We did not communicate. We did not communicate in our household. We did not talk about feelings. And I'll tell you a story because I think this is connected. You know, we talk a lot about intergenerational trauma, and I always, you know, I have this reputation among people that I have dated that I'm a cold-hearted bitch. But y'all know that's not true.
You are. I know you very well.
I mean, I can be.
All the time.
I can be. But the thing about it is I grew up, one, obviously with these three guys as my brothers, and obviously I felt I had to fit in, so I'm not gonna be. I used to cry. I used to watch movies. Y'all know this. I cried at every movie I ever watched. And I would have to hide in the bathroom because they would clown me. But I would literally cry everything. I cry still to this day at 95% of movies that I watch. I
didn't know that.
I'm an empath. But I would hide it. I became so good at hiding it because I'm like, they gonna clown me if I'm crying. I don't want to be the crybaby or whatever.
Yeah, why she going to the bathroom again?
I was like, I would be having a tear and I'll be trying to like wipe it with my arm and stuff. Like, that can't catch me crying. It would be sad. But so I learned very early on, even as a girl, where traditionally we're given more freedom to express our emotions. Because of my environment, I learned like, nah, you can't really do that. And so I stopped being like, I just tuned my emotions all the way out, partly because of trauma. But as I've, you know, grown up and I've started to deal with that, I had to learn how to break that cycle of not communicating. So men would think like, you're such a bitch, like you don't feel no feelings, you don't talk about no feelings. But I trained myself because my parents never talked to me about feelings. And I remember the first time I ever decided like, I'm feeling something, I'm gonna communicate with my mom, right? I was 12 years old. I tell this story all the time too. Whenever I get to that point in my relationships where niggas get tired of me, and I'll be like, look, let me just tell you I'm like this, okay? So I give them this story. I was 12 years old, as everybody, you know, people that know us, and if you're watching our podcast for the first time, we were in the foster care system. Both of our parents were addicts. They were addicted to crack cocaine. And my dad had went to prison when I was 8, and here we are, fast forward 12 years old. And my mom, she's on drugs, and we all see it. It's affecting our lives really heavily. And me being the only girl, I took on a mother role, you know, very early on. And so I said, I got to talk to this lady. Like, she's wilding out. She's doing drugs. Maybe if I come to her as her daughter and just tell her how she's impacting me, she will stop. So I write her this long letter. And I'm like, Mom, you know, your addiction is affecting me. It's like intervention before intervention. Your addiction is affecting me negatively in the following ways. Like, that's literally what my letter was like at 12. Like, this is how your addiction is affecting our family. And my mom comes and I give her the letter. Like, I built up all the courage. I give her the letter. I sit there, she reads it. And she literally looks me in my face after reading and said, I ain't on no drugs, boy. What do you mean? I'm like, are you crazy?
There's no talking about it.
You have been on drugs since I was like 5 years old. I'm 12 at this point. I'm not an idiot. But it just taught me that if you actually are vulnerable, you build up that courage to be vulnerable, people will shut you down. And so for me, that translated into, well, I ain't gonna never give nobody the opportunity to shut me down. And so it made me not be vulnerable for most of my life. Because I'm like, if I can't trust my own parent to validate me, I can't trust these niggas to validate me.
I'm gonna caveat some things. Is the first thing was owning feelings. And like I said, that's one of the key things, that it just all these things that it's almost impossible to own feelings, because you never, it's taught to never to even acknowledge that feeling in the first place, and that you're even wrong for even feeling the feeling that you even acknowledge. So then it's something, feel like it's something wrong with you for even feeling this way, and now you're in a constant mental cycle, which messes up your mental work, that I need to understand, how do I not have this happen? Because the people are telling me it's not normal for me to feel sad. That's the whole point. It's conditioned. Like, why do you feel for this person? You supposed to show no mercy. Like that feelings where like that you start to have in a sense that where it's something wrong with me because I feel these things, because I'm told I don't supposed to feel these things, and I should get over it and deal with it.
Which impairs your mental health because you're suppressing something that you shouldn't be.
Yep.
So, and that's the same thing. And the second thing that I'm gonna caveat to let Lauren piggyback us into this next thing is the whole point of that is finding the positive. Is that second side of that is finding the positive. So is owning the feeling that you're feeling and then finding the positive out of there. Most situations that I've ever been in sharing mental health, there's no finding the positive. Is I lost this. It ain't like, oh, look on the bright side. That's not what they would say. Look at the bright side, Ted, you have 97 billion toys. And gangbang goes, you're like oh man, this dude just robbed us for all our weed. At least we didn't get a felony. It's not find the positive. No, we need to retaliate and fuck his ass up and then get us all a felony. So is that define the positive aspect of the silver lining when things when you have a mishap, which life is all about mishaps. So we're not conditioned to find the positive or see anything else but negative, which either put you in a worse mental state or make you react in a way that is not conducive, and also with not owning feelings and taking ownership. Those feelings I call feelings like energy, don't quote me. They don't go away. Energy cannot be destroyed. It's just transfer. I think feelings are if you pin back that anger, it's gonna come out at some point, and that's literally my whole childhood in a nutshell. Is that it's gonna come out at one point, and that one point could be very detrimental to your life, because a lot of things are unfortunate. A lot of situations I should have died in first, being that reckless, or something bad ramification based on law should have happened to me that should have impeded me as well. Those things fortunately never happened to me, but a lot of us live in that same thing, that we react to a situation based on a lot of pent-up anger and emotion, and it's not the most logical thing for the situation that can end up having catastrophic effects on your life. And that's all just because we didn't take ownership or find the positive. So going into the next subjects, what do you want to do with these things?
I would love to. I think it was Tay mentioning intergenerational trauma, that theory that suggests that trauma can be transferred between generations. What's really interesting about that concept, I think about my grandmother and how she kind of got moved around from house to house, had to live with a great grandparent, didn't really know them like that, and just how that kind of transferred to her life now. She feels like, well, I didn't have my dad. She's like 70 years old, and she's still dealing with not having her dad around, them not, her growing up with them, and then how she treats us based on how she's still feeling about that, especially when she sees my mom interact with my grandpa, because she sees that daughter-dad dynamic and she gets frustrated in those ways. So if anyone wants to jump in talking about intergenerational trauma.
I'll speak on that, because I feel like in this family, I got the most generational drama because I'm the oldest. And I had to sit there and watch my parents do all this shit. And I covered their tracks as a young age. Luckily, I was blessed with knowledge, and plus I'm a Libra, so I got balance. So I was able to balance out situations, you know what I'm saying? If it wasn't for me, my parents would have went down a long time ago. Like, I had my sister She was like we a year and a half apart. Like I'll be like, nigga, you better not be at that school saying that shit. Like I had to bully. I ain't gonna lie. I had to threaten to beat her because that was the only way she was gonna do that. She was like,
I'm a talker. I'll be like, these people doing some bad stuff. I would have been sick.
With me, I felt like I lost out on my childhood, and it was tough for me to deal with. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't realize this shit till I got grown. You know what I'm saying? Because I had to always be the one that couldn't be soft. I always had to be the hard one. I could never be, you know what I'm saying? I could never show weakness because if I break down, then everybody breaks.
What the fuck we supposed to do? You know?
Yeah, so at a young age, like I could speak on that. Like I had to be grown before my time, and it really affected me. But I didn't realize how it affected me until I got grown. But as a child, I just seen it as, you know what I'm saying? I didn't know what to see it as. I just like, nigga, I just got to do what I got to do. You know what I'm saying? This is what I got to do, and I can't change it. People might not understand it, but it is what it is, because I could be the one to say, like, for instance, me and Tete, we was a year apart, but if this nigga came up to me at school talking about giving me a hug, I'm like, nigga, we ain't got time for no goddamn hug. Nigga, we hard.
You know what's going on? You know what's going on at the house?
Niggas dying every day, B.
Yeah, niggas dying every day being hard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like but that's how my brain was wired. It was wired on survival. It wasn't, I love my sister. Yeah, I love my sister. But in perception, it's about survival. We gotta look hard out here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
I remember that being the situation, but I still got my hugs, and my brothers know I don't give a damn. You could be in front of 12 gangbangers right now.
Hey.
Give me a hug. But that's part of intergenerational trauma too, because my mom had a strained relationship with her mom, right? They didn't communicate. They didn't have a loving, my granny, we know, God rest her soul. She's one of the greatest women I ever known in life. And now that I'm adult, I understand her a lot. Because I know her life story now, so I understand her traumas and why she was. But as a kid, I was just like, she mean. But
she had traumas later in life.
She was, but she had traumas, and because she had traumas and she was taught not to express emotion, she didn't show affection to my mom. And my mom actually in one way broke that generational trauma because she became very affectionate to us because she did not have that.
Mama did show love.
She showed us a lot of love. And so I think that was one of the ways when I became kind of a parentified child, I took that on. Like, it's my job to show my brothers love because we don't have our mom here raising us anymore. Like, I'm going to continue that legacy of her. But she works really hard to break that curse because her mom and her mom before her, Ollie, we already know our great grandma Ollie, it wasn't no.
Stuck under too many beds.
Man, me and Ted just get into the bed.
The realest gangster Villarica ever done known. Ollie was not but those women all were just, their lives were so hard, they just could not show affection and love, and they passed that on for so many years. And for us, we worked really hard, like with our own children, to break that cycle. But yeah, that's one of the ways I've seen.
No, that's what it said. Like how Tori's talking about survival, and that's what I feel like a lot of times, like with us, especially, coming up how we came up, but just a lot of people, you gotta get in that survivor mode. But when you get in that survivor mode, it kind of mess up everything else. It's like you don't open up to people as much. It's like you're sheltered, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like you got this block up against everybody, you know what I'm saying? But that's how it makes you, you know what I'm saying? Even though it makes you tougher, you get through shit, you gotta always pull together, but it also teach you like, I got to count on me, but it makes it harder for you to be susceptible to like take shit from other people, or you know what I'm saying, and be more open to let people do for you. It's like because you got this wall up because this is all I got to survive. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is. Like, and a lot of times people go through a lot of stuff, and that's why they don't like. You could know somebody for the longest time. Just our situation, people didn't know I was in foster care. You feel me? Like.
Yeah, for real.
They have no idea. I carry myself very well, like, and not even to say like, and I can say this now because I'm older now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I used to be real ashamed of that shit. Like, damn, you know what I'm saying?
Like, made a duty to make sure that nobody knew that me and him were foster kids. It was like our pact that like nobody knows.
Come on, my nigga, like. You feel me? Like this shit is
You remember?
real.
You remember?
You know what I'm
Sometimes we would
saying?
see some kids we know. I'm like at a foster kid because Mud used to take us to get our Christmas presents, and we would see like kids we know, like, oh shit, like
we just can't.
We just up here volunteering. We just volunteering.
I'm volunteering.
It was like a pack of foster kids, like
I won't bust you out, you don't bust me out, man. Like, because it was.
But some of my friends, I actually found out they were in foster care through like those ILSP events.
I'm like,
you know what I'm saying? And it was like that. You know what I'm saying? It's like I used to be ashamed of that, and it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like somebody could be going through something you never know because it's so suppressed. Like that's why I feel like I got a repressed memory. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of my, when you go through a lot of traumatic experience in your life, it's like some shit you just block out. It's like I feel like how Tori said, like my childhood, nigga, I never had a childhood. You feel me? Like I was already
like my life started at. I just was one day I was 16.
This what I always say. Like on some real shit. Like we were very all intelligent, right? Like, but honestly, like my worst subjects in school, like I breezed through everything, but my worst shit was reading. Like I could read and shit. I wasn't one of the students like I could read, but my mom or nobody never taught me how to read. You feel me? Like I don't remember anybody just sitting me down like showing me how to. You feel me? Like I was just doing.
If you think about the significant traumatic event,
I just know shit.
The one that's called 1994, you're very a child, so you didn't have any of those small little that like I said, we never talked about this.
By the time you were going into school.
This is one of the things we never talked about this as a family, and that's something I never even thought about. Point is that you had a different structural base we had because Mama taught me how to read because it was before nervous breakdown, before Daddy goes to jail, and all these catalysts. So I never even realized that you didn't get that same version of the family stability that I had till I was 6. That you
feel me?
You was a baby.
That's so true. I never even thought about that.
I can remember, like, when I was in kindergarten, you feel me? I mean, like, when Jesse went to jail or the prison and shit, Mom had the nervous breakdown and shit. You feel me? That's what I remember. You and Tori, nigga, Tay, they missing school. They got to get me in Ted's regular school. But you understand, like, Mama was gone. Like, she was
gone. She was not a mom.
It's like, I'm not looking for, I don't expect y'all at this time to be teaching. Y'all got shit to worry about. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I can really remember this. Like, nobody ever taught me. Like, I'm learning shit from Tez. Like, I swear, he's telling me shit, nigga.
Yeah, I used to always. And the only reason I did it wasn't the quiz question because I hated it. It was my nemesis until like since he turned 16. I just want to show how smarter I am than him.
I'm so much smarter than you. What is 2 times 2?
Oh, you know this. I swear, he do this backwards like this, and then Quenty be like, "Oh, show me again." I'm like,
"Oh." He knew everything. I'm like, "Damn, that's crazy."
That's funny.
I never had that structure. You know what I'm saying? So I always think back to that, like, damn, like, and a lot of times I'll be like, I always tell myself, like, man, my life is like on autopilot. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's like sometimes I think, like, damn, how did I overcome all this shit? Like, this is what I always say, like, and Tez, I'm gonna quote you in a minute, but this is what I always say, like, my life was hard, but it was easy. And Ted, one day Tez said it, like, he said the best shit when he was in Detroit one day, smoking and shit, cold as fuck on the balcony. He said the realest shit. He was like, man, he was like, damn, it's crazy. When we was little, we was poor, but I didn't feel like we was poor. You feel me?
I never felt poor. Never.
Like, Mom never made it seem, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, man, that's real shit though. But and another thing, when people got to think about overcoming like mental illness, like it really is about your mental. You feel me? Like I always say, you got to rise above the madness. Like, your mind is the most powerful thing. You feel me? It really could make you or break you. I feel like, you feel me? Think like, damn, you know, when you see people that's just out of their mind, like in the streets, always think like, damn, like how did they get to that point? You feel me? But your mind can really take you over if you let it. You know what I'm saying? And that's
for real. Because sometimes, like, the way my life is being, and I think about it because as I'm working on this book, and it's been so hard, like, I have to take many breaks on this shit because it just triggers memories and shit. Yeah. And sometimes, like, Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind, like, nigga, is this shit real? Like, which part of this shit is real? Because, like, then sometimes, like you said, you suppress so much stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like, people fill me in on my life. Like, you remember this, Yeah,
You know what that?
What? I don't remember
No,
that.
that's trauma brain. So there's been research that when you go through significant trauma, it's like your brain's way of protecting you. So your brain is like, it's a catalog. So your brain catalogs shit. So it's like, is this gonna serve me well? Nope. I'm gonna put that way back in that back little category. So it does, because if your brain keeps the trauma on your forefront of your brain, then that's how your mind loses itself, because you're constantly being re-triggered. But your brain, as a protective factor, it'll take memories and it'll repress them. That's why, you know, people who go through a lot of trauma, they don't remember a lot of stuff, because your brain does that as a protective mechanism. So it's like a beautiful thing, but also it's like, yeah, you have all these gaps in memory because your brain like, oh, that's gonna make her upset. Let me just go ahead and tuck that to way to the back. And then another point that you guys were talking about that I was thinking about as we were like preparing for this episode is like that whole survival skill thing that we talked about.
Yeah.
And this is one of the main things about like therapy and why I'm a big like advocate for therapy. I've been in therapy for years, and my therapist that I have now, I've had her for 2 years. She's amazing. But one of the things she's taught me to do is, because we had such traumatic childhoods, we lived on survival mode. So in survival mode, you don't show a lot of emotion. You do, you know, there's certain things you do, and those tools serve you well because they got you to this point. They help you navigate trauma. They help you navigate danger. But then when you become like, it took me, 2016 was a year where I had this epiphany, like, I don't have to survive anymore. I can actually like live. And I didn't really know what that meant. I can enjoy life. I'm not struggling. I'm financially like, you know, stable for the first time in life, but I just didn't know how to transition. And so one of the things therapy really helps with, and why I advocate for, is my therapist helped me like start to figure out what coping skills I don't need anymore. Like those were great when you were like navigating a traumatic childhood with 2 addicted parents, but you don't need that anymore. So now as an adult, you can be like, oh, thank you, survival skill, but I'm gonna go ahead and like tuck you, thank you, I'm put you in the back. Like, you know, in Toy Story where Andy put the toy, like, I don't need the toy no more. Like, you don't need that survival, but sometimes we never get to that point. And so we're using skills to deal with life that no longer serve us. And that's how we have difficulties in relationships. That's how we have difficulties in work, because we're so used to relying on skills that we no longer need because we're not in the battle zone anymore. That's why, you know, going to therapy and talking through that type of stuff is super important.
And I wanted to add to that because therapy was something that just stigmatized in the Black community, just in general. People like, therapy, you're going to go pay somebody to listen to you? Absolutely. I did it a couple years ago. And
why can't God give you that?
Going off with taste, like I was, because like
for free. Or for the pastor donation of the night.
Private counsels.
being somebody who suffers from anxiety and deals with it, like going to therapy was like you're suppressing all these fears that you had based on traumatic experiences, but you're not experiencing that anymore. Like, why do you fear losing your job? Because as a kid, like I remember not having nothing to eat, my mom struggling, like I don't want to get to that point, but I'm an adult now, so I can make that choice to either struggle or
not
have what I need. So it's just really interesting, like using those tools that are relevant and getting rid of the ones that you don't need anymore.
I'm gonna go more into the stigma thing, like and especially therapy, and it's just like we know the stigma, we have to rewrite the stigma, and that's part of this podcast, because like we just didn't look at it the way that you should normally look at it for many different reasons. I will go over the social economic reason why Black people are just so behind in this aspect later. That's a whole different thing that has everything to do with everything, including slavery. This is the reason why that happened. So, but anyway,
everything's about slavery.
It all goes back to that. Access is the biggest key. But we, as the Black community, had a ill notion of taking mental health serious, because in the sense of is health, for the same reason that we have no longer do the witch doctor cat piss cures everything in the Black culture. We also have to, and we go to see a real doctor now. Same thing with mental health. You're really affected. You need to see a professional in that sport, like we see for doctors, as we see for dentals, is another part of health. Even today, even for fitness, they don't even let me give them fitness tips no more. They want a certified professional trainer because you want a pro to do it, even though I'm better. I just never got a class in that because I just dunk on people. That's what I do. So that's the whole point, is that you go to a professional to get things. Same thing with your mental health. And yes, it's a battlefield. Just like in war, when I was coming back, coming back and re-entering the real world from being deployed. You go through classes to make sure that you're mentally equipped to re-enter society.
Yeah.
We need that same tools and same things that help us enter, like Tay said, as he transitioned from surviving to living, we need to make sure that our brain is okay and we can forget things that we didn't know. For example, just like basketball, like it was cool to be the Bad Boys Pistons in 1989, but now you can't hand check and they can't beat people up. So those skills are no longer relevant. That's why you see people are not as buff and they all can shoot now. Because you have to adapt your game. That was the great days. If you wanted to spot 80s, 90s basketball, yes, you had to add all the pads. You better all like Rick Mahorn and Dennis Rodman. But today you could look like Larry Marketing off the Chicago Bulls, just be a skinny white kid that can shoot threes, because the whole point is you don't need that same physicality. You can abandon those tools and pick up new tool skills, step back jumpers, crossovers, and stuff that make you more relevant for the world that you're in now. And that's the thing.
That's why these conversations are important. Yeah, it makes people feel like it's okay. Like, think about if small groups of people were having these conversations, because the way that you change like mindsets of societies and cultures is when small groups of people start saying, oh, it's cool. You know, like back in the day, that's how trends happen. One person says, it's cool to wear baggy jeans. And then you have their friend starts wearing baggy jeans. And then the neighborhood's wearing baggy jeans. And then the whole world is wearing. Everything starts with small groups of people saying that something is okay. So if you have a friend like Corny, if it's you on this podcast being like, yeah, mental health, we need to really be into it. And then your homeboy like, hey, I heard you talking about mental health. And then you have that conversation with him and he has that conversation with his little brother. That's how we influence, and that's how we have to
reverse the stigma. It is not bad to talk about your feelings. It's not bad to be emotional. That's what actually makes you human. So let's embrace these and find the best tools to make us best ways to deal with our emotions in a rational way that's productive for everyone.
You know what, too?
Because we're not in this world alone.
Absolutely.
And one of the last things I want to touch on, and the good conversation point is like, Quinny, you said that like a lot of the places we have been through, and we were like, we was just on autopilot, like God just got it actually was more than that. There was people that looked out for us throughout this time. Remember, and that's what you said. You don't know what people are going through that was close to you. Nobody knew I was in Farscape. Nobody knew I was poor. Nobody knew like I said, they just really cared about me and loved me, and the things that they did really helped me survive. Like they don't even know. Friends and family, teachers, coaches, everybody don't even know the parts they played that saved me from really being dead. But they didn't know that, and that's the whole point. You never know what the people are going through. So let's be better people and help them out, and be kind to people, and even listen to those things. Because some people just need to vent their situations too, and like be that.
That's what I was gonna say.
You never know what people are going through. I was always on that 50-50 cup. Like one wrong move or wrong roll dice of misfortune. Could have. My life is completely different. Just one little thing. If they didn't help, like they could have, and you don't know what that is for. And I became pretty good, and I became pretty good this human being in that. And that if not, I could be the complete opposite of that. And real, like two things is the difference between success, the love versus success, America's worst nightmare that CNN would tell you to stay away from, because based on everything given. So it's literally a couple of kind notions by a certain few people scattered throughout my life that gets me by and gets me to that next level every time. And that's the whole point. Those people are in your lives too. You need to be aware of that. And sometimes just take a step back and don't be as, like I said, the great thing about human beings, we're arrogant by nature because we're self-centered.
Trained to be individualistic.
But we need to think about other people. They need us. People need us. People need other people.
And we can
Nobody
see now
gets to where they go without
other.
that people. So be that person, be that need. People need you. Like, why they need me? People will need you.
And you need other people. Corny, what were you were saying something earlier?
I was gonna make a point about like just a stigma of people not taking it so serious, not even taking it serious, or just like unaware, because it make it harder to have social media and all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? You can't, motherfuckers. You post some shit, motherfuckers. And that's just how society made it, though. It's like it's not like where would you feel like y'all was saying, like y'all went to therapy, Lo and JD tell y'all went to therapy. Like I've never been to therapy, but I've thought about it. I'm not gonna lie, like because when I was young, I used to be like, man, I ain't never gonna know that. Having nobody, a stranger talking to me, motherfucker, I can make a mixtape. You know what I'm saying? No, and that's another wondering is like, how are people, dealing with, these problems? Like, if they're not going to see a therapist or somebody that's licensed to, actually give them advice without judging them. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you meditate? I smoke weed. You know what I'm saying?
I meditate.
I get closer to God. You know what I'm saying? I meditate.
But
but it's like, no, go ahead, Tori.
With that, like, I personally ain't never sat down with no per se therapist or nothing like that. Like, for me, writing always been my therapy. Like, everybody, ever since I was a kid, that's all I do. But if it went for writing and movies, like me, everybody know me, like, all my fucking lines is from some movie. It could be from the 1920s up to now. I was raised on movies. Like, if I didn't have a TV, which is called television programming, that I had to realize later that, like, nigga, I'm just an actor, nigga, because I just was raised. My parents was TV, nigga. Like, J. Cole said, "Rest in peace, Uncle Phil." For real, I felt that.
Right.
I know that nigga's Uncle Phil. He was my father in a lot of ways. Like, I didn't have one.
You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying, like, my generation, we was raised basically on the culture because we had the crack shit going on. Our parents weren't living as parents because of the systemic stuff that they was going through. So we basically was raised on TV and music. You know what I'm saying? And that's a fucked up dynamic if you really think. You know what I'm saying? Because you could tell motherfuckers right now and they'll tell you, like, nigga, Ice Cube or Tupac or somebody is they daddy because that's who they listen to every day. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna lie. When I was growing up, me and my homies would listen to the dang CD, and we about to go out here in the streets and try to imitate that. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these kids,
that's why that movie was so monumental because it was that was literally our life.
I'm saying, like, so that's why I feel sorry. Like, that's why I'm glad that I'm more aware now, and I'll be trying to be a person out there for these kids, because I didn't have, if I had one person out there be like, "Hey, Centauri, I don't need you out here doing it. This is a better way." If it was just one person out there in the street stopping me, one person, you know what I'm saying? And
Nah, but real talk though, that's real.
I was the one doing that. I was like, "Hey, y'all, stop ditching school and smoking weed and go get your education."
As a grown person, like somebody.
No, I feel you. Yeah, like mentoring.
You know, like we, my generation, literally, we had to be men as kids. We didn't have no father figure. Our father figures was the streets or TV or drug dealers, gangbangers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they touch all the wrong shit. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's the whole point. Like I said, just the way we grew up, just feel like I had no control over my childhood life, and that's why we build things. That's why I enjoy basketball so much, because I can control my life. Like I said, you know, our foster, I couldn't even control when I eat. That was dictated by blood. I couldn't control, like I said, I could control nothing, but I could control the court. Like I said, I could shake you down, and you can't stop me from getting a bucket. So I gravitated to that so much because it felt like that was the only place that made sense to me that I could control. Like, I can make myself good at this. And nobody can take that away.
Nobody can control.
Like
and that's what a lot of people,
and I feel
that's what a lot of people turn to.
You couldn't beat me in this, so I can feel good.
Something they can control.
Yeah. They don't feel like they have control.
You cannot do anything to me in this
and,
or whatever world we're in now. These rules, I own this, and that's the reason why that was important to me.
But that's another thing that as you become an adult, especially as you enter into relationships, that's one of those tools you really have to check, because, you know, a lot of kids when they're, you know, that's one of the main things I talk to my therapist about all the time is, as a kid, my world was so chaotic. Now, control the little things that I could control, I started to control them, but then it becomes, that's how people have OCD. Like, it becomes, it can become something that hinders you as you grow, because it's like, you don't need to exercise so much control. You can relinquish a little bit, but if that's all you've been able to do, if you've only been able to have those small little areas where you can control, you kind of like take it out of control. Like, you know, so that's one of the things that personally, as a child of trauma, I've worked on over the last 2 years. Is like, you ain't got to control everything. Somebody can load the dishwasher differently from you, and you don't have to cuss them out. Like, that's like, shit like that be pissing me off. But it's like, you don't have, it's okay. Like, is that going to harm you? You know what I'm saying? Because control becomes it's a mindset. And it's like, you have to start saying like, okay, if you let go of control of that thing, is that harmful to you? No, you just like, your brain just blankets everything, like have control. It's like, no, you don't have to have control of every small thing. You can actually let go and you're going to survive.
And great for bringing that up. Because
I want to go back to what Mecca was saying a little bit.
You said what, Quani?
I want to go back to what Mecca was saying a little bit about just, you know, as far as like being raised, you know, just and for me, for example, like, you know what I'm saying, I didn't have, of course, all of us, but y'all had them a little more than me, but I didn't have no father figure at all. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's a big thing in our community. A lot of us growing up without, you know, fathers, you know what I'm saying? I feel like that's a big, like, gap that's missing in the Black community, you know what I'm saying? Just as a mental thing. I feel like it's a lot of things that I could have did different if I'd have had this advice, or, you know what I'm saying? And even as me as a father now, I'm like, damn, my son, that's why I always say we raising each other, because nigga, this is all
new to me. You just making it. I'm making this shit up as I go.
You know
you actually needed that? You actually need this? Oh, nobody even asked me if I needed that my whole life. In my
you know what I'm saying? Like, exactly. Like, I done went my whole life without having no type of parental guidance at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like a lot of people, and not just saying me, a lot of people go through that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like certain situations you find yourself in. It's like it would be different if I had, you know, a male figure, period. Like Tori was saying, like if I would just have somebody just like, hey, you know, hey, you shouldn't be doing this, or, you know, stop, you know, instead of selling drugs or whatever.
In the why in the male perspective that makes sense.
And that's actually the last thing I wanted to touch on before we go today, is just children and how we can raise our children to be aware of their own mental health and their social emotional development. Because the thing is, it's not ingrained in us. It's not an instinct. Like, we have to learn all these different things. So I would love to hear from the group about children and their own mental health and social emotional.
Okay, can I go first?
Sure.
You got to raise your hand in this family.
My motto to everybody. Y'all know who I am. Y'all know who I am. Like, this is why I want to just give. If you want to take away anything from me, everybody out there, you have to have self-confidence in yourself. You have to instill that love and pride in your kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, my son, I tell him, he's about to be 10 years old. I tell my son every day I love him 100 times a day. You feel me? And I get that from our mom. She used to shower us with love. That's one thing. You know what I'm saying? One thing I really respect her for, and that I can still remember as a kid, you know what I'm saying? Even though she was going through everything she was going through, she still took that time to show us love, regardless. So I feel like you have to empower your kids with a sense of self-worth, like they know. And that's what we were robbed from, a lot of us growing up. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially how they oppressed us growing up, just our people. We don't have that sense of self-love, and you know what I'm saying? And that's the main thing to do with your mental, because man, motherfucker can't tell me nothing. You know what I'm saying? We come from the worst. I've been the poorest motherfucker ever, but you couldn't tell me nothing. Self-love, the main love, self-happiness, you know what I'm saying? And spread that to the kids. They grow up with that, you know what I'm saying? They won't be second-guessing themselves or anything. They won't feel like they're not wanted, you know what I'm saying? And just have your mental strong. And I feel like that's the key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Real.
I'll go second, and I would say what you need to instill in your kids is humility. And I'll tell you why. Everything from me always goes to the same thing. It's a biblical foundation that literally humility is everything. Once you instill in the children humility and understand that I need help, because like I said, everybody deals with the reason why this is a problem, because nobody seeks help. Is the whole point. The one time when I realized that I'm not the greatest in the world, that I need help from other people and other points, is the reason where I actually became great. And the GOAT, as the GOAT is on my shirt, is we have to teach our kids that they need to understand when they need help with something, that when things are out of their control, and when they need to seek help or guidance, with that is from a mental health perspective, if it's from their father. As like I said, mental health also starts with parenting, is that they can go to the humility that I can go to you, Quinny, as my dad, and be like, hey, I really am struggling with this, and I really need your help or guidance on this, because I don't know how to deal with this situation. So I think if we instill humility and the seek and get into them, that it's okay to actually seek help, and that's one of the way that we can reverse stigma. So that's my little bit. This is not my area, So
well, I think kind of to piggyback on what you're saying, Tess, too, one of the things for me is more about like our accountability as parents. So I think one of the things that about humility, it also transfers to us as parents to be able to be humble so that we, one, give our kids the ability to come to us, because how we were raised, in our generation, kids are to be seen, not heard.
Nope.
And one of the ways in which I, as a parent, have completely tried to shift and break generational curses, sometimes it bites me in the ass because my son got a smart ass mouth. But when Khair was born, Joe and I really made a pact, because we really came from very suppressive communication type houses, that we would allow Khair to express himself as long as he did it respectfully, because your kid is never going to come to you and be humble if you are not approachable, if they don't feel safe.
The environment for that.
You have to foster that environment for your child to feel safe to come to you. And that was always my thing. I went through so many traumatic events as a kid, a lot of them which I never spoke on because I didn't feel safe to go to my parents. And so for me, one of the main things in terms of raising a child is I want Khair to always feel like I could tell this lady I just burned down the apartments, but I could tell her that because she has created the environment. And it's difficult. Our parenting skills are really based on, a lot of it is on nurture. So the way we were parented really affects us. And so I have to check myself, because I was raised by Mae Francis a lot of my life. I have to check myself, when I'm ready to like jump down Khair's throat. I have to remember, even like during this quarantine time, one of the main things that I have had to humble myself on is to realize, just as stressed as I am, just as isolated as I feel, just as frustrated as I feel, he feels that way too. And he's 9. So he doesn't even have the same level of capacity to express that he feels that way. So it may come out as him snapping. It may come out as him having a damn tantrum in Walmart about some slime. But I have to, as the adult, I have to remember it is my job to set the stage for him to be able to express that. And so that's been one of the things that I try to encourage Khair on, when, is checking in with him and saying, how do you feel? Tell me how you feel. No. And he'll get in that mode where he's like, no, mom. And I'm like, no, I'm your mom. This is supposed to be our dynamic. Tell me how you feel. And so we try to foster that, open door, like communication, because I never want my son to feel like he can't tell the person that's raising him, that he lives with, the most difficult things. And now, before I let somebody else talk, I just want to, this quote that my therapist always says to me, because a lot of my childhood trauma affects how I parent. I get very anxious about doing anything to hurt Khair because my parents did things to hurt me and I didn't have a say so. And so I really I mull over every decision I make that affects my son, because I never want him to have those feelings of not having control that I did. But my therapist told me this, and she tells me this every time I'm like agonizing over something about Khair. She says, it's not our job to prepare the road for our child. It's our job to prepare our child for the road. So you can't stop your kid from experiencing pain. You can't stop your kid from experiencing all these different things in the world. But if you, like Kwani said, if you build self-worth into your child, like Ted said, if you build humility into your child can combat whatever the world brings to them. Yeah. And so that's our job as parents. And I always think of that when I'm stressed out. It's not my job to prepare. I can't stop everything that's going to come to him, but I can equip him with tools to face whatever he's going to deal with out in the world. And so that's really how I try to approach it.
I feel everything y'all said, but I'm gonna take my glasses off because I need the viewers to know that I'm serious. All that shit is cool, and everybody need that. But you also, with me, what I try to instill in my kids too is a sense that they're royalty. You know what I'm saying? That you also deserve loyalty and respect. And if you don't get that from people, they don't deserve your time. And number 2 is knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Everything that I know, I try to teach my kids. I don't give a fuck if they want to hear it or not. You gonna learn how to make some beats today. You gonna learn how to write a song today. You gonna learn how to take pictures today. Everything I know, I try to teach to my kids, because later on in life, they might be in a situation where like, damn, I already know how to do that. I can just smooth transition. So I always try to teach your kids, you know what I'm saying, what you know, and try to learn what they interested in. Like, for instance, I love to draw. I'm not a drawer. I do everything creative self-drawing, but my ass be trying to draw with her ass. So I just always encourage your kids to seek knowledge, because if you got knowledge, then nobody can never trick you. So knowledge is power. I always say continue to teach that in school, but some schools don't teach that. So knowledge is everything.
And I just want, with just jumping on everybody else's points, like making sure kids are confident, like promoting that self-advocacy is so important, because even as adults, it's hard for us to speak up for ourselves depending on the context. So think about for children when they know that they're already below adults and now they have to speak up about what they feel. So also going off Tay's point, giving them the space to express themselves. One thing my mom always did, always loved us no matter what the circumstances, even when I didn't know what was going on with my dad doing his old drug thing, and us being, my mom being divorced, and him trying to still run my mom off the road and do all these things. And she was dealing with all that, was still trying to deal with children. So just making sure you're still just building confidence within them. Also, education is so important, because if kids, with trauma, it's hard for kids to learn. So just keeping that in mind and like giving them tools that they can use at school, because some schools don't teach social emotional development. They just don't. You're kind of on your own.
Especially if you're in our generation, that shit didn't.
And this is why you see Black kids, kids of color, always suspended, always in the office, because they're like, oh, you was talking back? No, they just don't know how to communicate to an adult their feelings. They're not being disrespectful. Or maybe that's how they express it at home.
Or maybe they don't have those skills to express it, because
everybody always, like I said, I'm the prime example. Everybody knows this. I was expelled every year from school from 8th grade to like literally, I was kicked out of school every single year. Smartest kid in school, one of the smartest kids in school is some people that's really smart. I'm gonna call y'all out. So, I get it. But I always got kicked out of school because I had no other tools. I was told when I'm frustrated, mad, sad, angry, any other emotion but happy, I punch somebody in the face. That's literally what I was told. And literally, as soon as I feel any other experience other than happy, my reaction was to react in a violent way. That's what I was taught. Like that. Anybody talk about you, they can't talk to you. If they got a fat lip, shut them the fuck up. Like, every situation, punching, solved it. Oh, this brother do this, shut up. Oh, they want to do what you do, hit them, and they'll do what you say you want them to do. Like I said, like literally, that was, I had no other tools. They're like, oh, you're so great at communicating, because I finally was equipped with the tools to communicate what I'm feeling, how to communicate with you. Also understanding that you are actually a human being and not a punching bag, which a lot of people don't let us know. Like everybody's like I was trained that everybody's the enemy. Like I said, gangbang military will do that too. That this is another person who is just communicating that they're frustrated, and you need to communicate that, and there's a solution that's in there somewhere. As soon as I realized that, the life got really easy for me. But before that, I was like, anybody that didn't see things your way, hurt them. That's literally what I was taught. Like,
and that's why if we teach our children that type of stuff early on, they don't go through that whole struggle of, like you said, self-advocacy, confidence, education. If we teach them that, and I just think that's our job, even for those of us who aren't parents, we all have the ability to influence a child, influence somebody else. So there are kids that are looking up to you, looking at you, and so you just have to be trying to model that behavior for them in healthy ways, teaching kids how to speak up for themselves. That doesn't look like cussing somebody out, it's just our job really to try, as we learn these new skills that we weren't taught, it's really our job to pass that on to the next generation coming behind us, so they have healthier coping skills and healthier mental health than we have had. So
exactly, and they become healthier adults and just happier if they can learn that now and not when they're in their 20s, 30s. Trying to
when they're 34. So you shouldn't have to wait till you're 34 to like experience happiness.
Any last thoughts on this subject? Anything that anybody wants to talk about?
Explore their mental health, get your mind checked out. It's the most important thing on your body. Please don't be afraid to talk about it. I hope y'all will talk about it after this episode.
My last thoughts are kind of the same thing. I'm a huge advocate for therapy, talk therapy. I know people get really afraid of the idea of talking to a stranger. I know therapy is dumbass expensive, but I want to recommend a service that I use. It's called Open Path. It's basically sliding scale therapy. You can find therapists all throughout the country who will accept sliding scale fee where you can pay $35 a session. $50 for couples therapy. I think it's openpath.org, but we'll make sure we put the link in. But always try to find a way. I know there may be barriers in terms of cost, but I've utilized things like Open Path or just finding sliding scale therapy. But I'm telling you, talk therapy has changed my life. It has really given me a new outlook. And so I just really want to encourage people to explore what works for you. Meditation, God, there's apps, there's all different types of things just to be able to center yourself, get in touch with yourself, writing in a journal. So just really find the thing that works for you to have an outlet for your feelings, because your feelings don't belong stuffed down. You need an outlet. And so that could look so many different types of ways.
Yeah. I would just add, like, my main thing is, you know, like we was talking about earlier, like some people really suffer in silence. So like, we need more talks like this. Like, if, you know, people will be open to, you know, just have discussions or whatever they're going through or whatever. We got to find more outlets. Like you were saying, you guys going to therapy or whatever, you do it, meditate, you know, Tori, you, like you were saying, Mecca, you write. Some people, that's their outlet. They write poetry, write music. It's just, you got to find that way for you, whatever is the best way for you to, you know, to release, you know what I'm saying, and express the way, you know what I'm saying, get it out the way you get it out. But a lot of people are definitely suffering some big thing, because that's so many, you know, especially with these kids. This is one thing I want to say about the kids and bullying, you know, especially the cyber shit. Like, it's so many people going through mental health thing, they're being bullied and then they end up committing suicide. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people suffer in silence. You never know what they're going through. So I just feel like we need to make it more cooler to, you know, talk about this type of stuff. And I think this was a good way, you know, for people to get this information. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was segue in just to piggyback on Pointy. Like, what everybody knows, that's one of my first jobs at Twitter was actually looking at everything that was abusive on Twitter content. And one of the things that used to drive me crazy doing that was looking at the self-harm queue, as we called it, which was people who try to commit suicide online, either for crying help or being serious about it. So I've seen a lot of suicide attempts online, like there's a real thing. Twitter also, actually, great thing about that company, they also will pay for your mental health. They do have a team that reaches out to that. I used to be part of that team a long time ago. So, but anyway, and another thing that I just want to piggyback as my closing thoughts is the same two things that everybody was saying. Please foster the environment for conversation. Just like as we are adults, as many people mention, it's hard for us to speak up. Just think about how hard it is to speak up to your boss and that already established relationship. That's hard to let them know that where they're wrong and where you might feel some way where they can actually ease up or take off or any kind of structure. Think about how that for a child where their only dynamic is this, and you're scared to cut out your boss because he's in charge of your promotion, your money. This person's in charge of your food, your emotion, your well-being. So what would it feel like to actually challenge that if that atmosphere is not fostered in the first place? Will keep them repressed for the rest of their lives. So please do that. Also for everybody else, and the other side of the coin is like me, is like, please just think about ways that you can actually talk to people. For example, talk to my brother, Quinny. I didn't know, like, for example, like you don't never know where you need to talk and help. Like I said, hey, Quinny, it's weird that I like I love and hate Lady Gaga at the same time. Like, you don't ever know if what you're going through is valid. Like, everybody, you want to keep things internal because you think no other human could ever have the same perspective as you, but they do. So please talk to it, because whatever you're going through, somebody's probably going through the same thing. I think it's extremely hard and frustrating to try to win 12 games in a row in motherfucking my team on 2K. It's almost impossible to do. You get some sweaty person that knows the shit back his hands, and you cannot ever get that call. Like I said, you need to talk about that. Like, so I encourage you on one thing that is actually frustrating you or making your life a little bit not as great as it can be. Please try to find somebody that you might talk about that to. And it might be even a forum like Reddit, or I heard like where they have communities that are based on certain things. But please find there's a similar mind state just like yours, and some people can help you navigate, and even impart you one of those tools that you might need to navigate life better in the future, given the circumstance. So that's my tips to you. Please encourage to talk about your problems more, and please, if you are one of those people, foster a place where you can talk about your feelings more. If that's in relationships with kids or with that, like me and Lauren, we have to create an environment that we can talk to each other about anything, even if it might for something that we have gotten way better recently, and talk about that I was embarrassed to talk about it at first. Like, Like, cause you never know, and you might have same perspective. So please talk about your feelings.
Yeah.
And I just want to close with, I love what everyone said to close. I just want to close with thinking about just ourselves, because it starts with us. So making sure we're just reflecting on situations. That's like the first thing. We need to like reflect and practice that self-reflection, then to recognize what we're actually feeling and just acknowledge what that is and then respond to it. And just going through that process to better our mental health. So that's last thing I had. And I also wanted to just thank the family for just having this conversation. Not an easy conversation to have, but it felt really good to have this conversation. And when we choose to do the work, we're choosing not to pass it on to the other generation. So I just want to close with mental health matters, and the key to awareness is conversation. Thank you for joining us today for episode 3. Please like, subscribe, comment to our page, our channel, and take care. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Yeah.
Peace out.